out in a Lakers shirt.
I don't.
Prairie View A&M. One of my close friends went to Prairie View.
Awesome.
Dope. You went to Prairie View?
I did not.
Oh, respect.
Michael Pina from Sports Illustrated. Draymond, the percentage of shots at the rim in this postseason is at a 20-year low and declining over the past 5 postseasons. I was wondering if you could just speak to how difficult it is to get to the rim, finish at the rim, and then defensively the maybe increased priority of protecting the paint.
Well, I think there's an increased priority in protecting the paint because 3-point shooting is so good, and so it goes back to the Steph Curry effect. If you can constantly get into someone's paint, then it opens up. The world opens up. The 3-point shots open up, and that's what everyone wants to take away in today's day and age. And so, and then, I think the game's just much more athletic than it was before. Guys are more athletic, and it's just way tougher. Like Jason Tatum, 6'10", 6'11", wherever he is. He's a 2'3". Like Kevin Durant's 7 feet. He's really a 2'3". Like, yes, in the way the game has changed, you take Kevin Durant's a 3'4". Kevin Durant started his career as a 2. And so when you look at that, the overall length of guys in this league, and then you couple that with athleticism, and it just makes it so much tougher to get to the rim and finish. And I think that's a huge change in this game. And then also, teams are hunting more threes. And so even the priority for most teams, it is to get in the lane and kick out for a 3, as opposed to getting to the lane and finishing at the rim, or getting to the lane and getting to your mid-range. It's to get there and kick out, and I think that adds to the drop as well.
First row on the left.
Hey, Draymond. Tomer Azarli from Clutch Points. We were just talking to Clay, and Clay said that whenever he has a bad shooting night, he kind of YouTubes Game 6 Clay. That's his thing. I was curious, have you been around him when he does that at all? And do you have like a Game 7 Draymond that you YouTube whenever you have a bad game or something like that?
I see your name, and I saw last night where you pointed out, or maybe 2 days ago, where you pointed out that there was a question I was asked about Kevin Durant, and that's why I mentioned him. So I want to say thank you for your honesty and for your duty to this job. I know the world that we live in now is all about clickbait, and people will cut the question off so that they can try to make it appear as if I'm just up here talking about Kevin Durant like I don't have anything else better to do in my life. So I want to say I appreciate you and just upholding the integrity of media, because when I speak about the new media, that's what I'm speaking about. The integrity of this business has been lost, and bringing that integrity back to this business. So I want to say thank you on your work. That was incredible, and I appreciate that. As far as Game 6 Clay, I haven't seen him YouTubing it, and the reality is, if I did, we'd probably make fun of him. So it's probably good that I haven't. But I think for us, what's up, Mark? I think for us, you tend to go back to those experiences. You tend to draw from that, and because ultimately, when you think about things like from our perspective, especially a shooter like Clay, you always hear the term, get to the free throw line or get a layup, because you just need to see the ball go in the rim. It's not always that simple in the game. And so if you can go back to that and just a reminder, I know I can do that. I know what I'm capable of. I can go back, I can feel that, and it gets you to feeling good about yourself. I think that's a very big deal, and I think that's an underrated thing. It's the power of the mind. I always talk about how powerful one's mind is. Obviously, we all know that in the world. The power of the mind. If I can see that, I can get that in my memory bank, and I understand it. Now I can bring that to fruition. Now I can lean up on that. Man, I know I'm capable of doing that. And so I definitely have times where I go back and I look at old games, making shots or defending, whatever it is that you feel you need to come up at, and just try to draw from that experience.
Second row on the right. Boy, Manning, CLNS Media. Draymond, how much through the first two games have you felt that this series is kind of a contrast to styles and, some of the physicality you tried to instill in game two? Did you feel like that was a response to something the Celtics were doing in game one or just something you saw coming into this series that you felt you needed to respond to?
I just thought it was something that we need to bring. You get to the NBA Finals and physicality and meeting force with force is important. And so it's just something that you have to bring to this game. I thought, when I looked back at game one, when I watched the film and even just how I felt, I just didn't think they felt us enough. And you can't get to this stage to this level, and the reason you lose is because a team didn't feel you. That's a shame. You have to lose once you get to this level because a team was just better than you. And I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself, or not sleep with myself. I wouldn't be able to live. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I'm going on about my summer and we lost the NBA Finals because we couldn't meet force with force. And so I think that was just kind of it for me, and understanding that, like I said, that is my department. That's where I'm supposed to lead, and I can't let my guys down.
Third row on the left, Gary Washburn.
Watching Boston Globe. Is there an art to trash talk? One. Secondly, when a young guy comes and plays against you, and it's obvious he either models his game after you, or he might even say, "Man, I watched you growing up," and you talk trash to him. Is that fresh meat for you, or and is there times you just say, "I probably shouldn't have said that"?
There is an art to trash talking. If you grow up in Saginaw, Michigan, it's naturally given to you. And so, for me personally, growing up the way I did, you can't survive if you can't talk on the court. You go out there quiet if you want to. You play as good as you want. If you're quiet, they're going to think you're soft. They're going to keep trying to bully you. And so, that's just kind of the way I learned. For a young guy I think there's a balance, right? Like, I'm assuming you're talking Grant Williams. Of course you are. I think when you see a guy say, "Man, I grew up watching him," you appreciate it because that's why you work. You work to create a path for the next young guy. Like, my goal when I came in here was to create a path for Grant Williams, and so to hear him say that, it's an honor. Like, and so I don't take that for granted one bit. When a guy comes and when you say that and then you start talking junk to me, then yes, I'm going to say something about that, of course. But, like, I didn't say anything about that game one because he wasn't talking to me. Like, I'm not going to go watch his press conference where he gives me props, where he appreciates my game, and then go throw it in his face. Like, that's whack to me. Like, I'm not doing that. That's just not how I roll. LeBron James, when I was wearing LeBron James sneakers in my first 1, 2, 3 years and playing against him, he didn't throw in my face like, "Dude, you got on my sneakers." This is just not something you do. Once he started going at me and it got chippy and, he's yap, yap, yap. And all right, bro, like, you can't say that and then come and say this. Like, that just doesn't add up to me. So then you just go wherever you got to go. And for me, that's where I'm going. Do I feel like, nah, man, I shouldn't have said that. That was too, nah. It's the heat of the battle. You're out there on the court. You get to feel sorry for him or yourself if you want to. It's going to turn on you. So, no, you just keep it moving.
Third row in the middle.
I'm also someone who, things happen on the basketball court. Things are said on the basketball court. It's the basketball court. I then leave the basketball court. I go home to my life, my normal life. But, I am not one that's like, "Oh, man, such and such did this on the court, and now I need to feel the way I like." It's the basketball court.
Last question in the middle.
Josie Pavone, CLNS Media. Draymond, along those lines, who's a player that you saw growing up that may have taking that out of you in terms of like giving you that tenacity, that aggressiveness? Two guys that were talking after game 2 was Gary Payton and Cedric Maxwell, and they talked about that they got a glimpse of that old school trash talk and physicality basketball that they both lived. And I'm wondering, obviously, that's been part of your game for a long time now. But is there someone in particular that inspired that, or where did that originally come from? I guess.
No, I think it just comes from growing up in Saginaw, playing at Vets Park, playing at the Civitan Recreation Center. Obviously, and growing up, I watched guys like Gary Payton, Rasheed Wallace. I watched all those guys and how they went about their business. Dennis Rodman, you seen those guys over the years, and I have a huge appreciation for Uncle Oak. How he enforced things. Like that's a part of the game. Like that is a skill, and so I have a huge appreciation for those guys. I saw I saw what Cedric Maxwell said, and one thing that baffles me about the '80s or the '90s or whatever you want to call when basketball was so much more physical is some of the guys that be talking weren't the guys that was punching people. Like they act like guys was just walking around the court like I'm hitting this guy in the nose. There were a few guys back then that would lay you out, that would knock you out, that would foul you and get thrown out the game. Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, but everybody running around acting like they were that. Y'all were getting bullied, and so it baffles me when every guy, just because they played in the '80s, just because they played in the '90s. It's like, man, if you played in our day, you get knocked out. Like, no, not really, because it wouldn't be you. So, okay, you saying Rick Mahorn would have knocked me out. Rick Mahorn probably knocked you out. Like, Bill Laimbeer probably lays you out. So, were there enforcers of that time? Of course. Would they have knocked you out? Of course. Their fine was also $2. Like, it's just not the same day and age. If I go knock somebody out, I probably get fined $1 million. Like, it just don't work the same. And so, when guys get to making these comparisons or talking about, if you played in this day and age, like, yeah. And if you played in this day and age, you would have had to be way more skilled than you were. And it's just different, like comparing the physicality to the game and everybody acting like they were just the most physical and brutal enforcers. It's like everybody acting like they shoot the ball like Steph Curry today. It's like then it was physical. Now it's shooting. Everybody can't shoot the ball. Imagine me in 20 years like, man, if you played in my day, you had to shoot. Guys did shoot better and more. But that don't mean you shot that well. And so it just baffles me when guys get out here talking and they ain't got, we got YouTube and you can pull up them highlights and they ain't got no YouTube fights. Like, you see them on the court getting bullied, but they talking about you and got punched in the face. These people be killing me. Y'all enjoy y'all day.
Thanks a lot, Draymond.
All right, we'll start with Maddie again here on the left for our first question for Steph.
Hi, Steph. You guys have won 26 consecutive playoff series where you guys have won at least one game on the road. What is it that you guys are able to just weaponize your opponent's court?
I think we always know how to just find a way to win games, no matter what style it is, high scoring, low scoring, defensive battle, shootout, whatever it is. We find another level of grit and determination, and it's an ability to find a way to get it done and be in hostile environments where you get tested, you get pushed, and our experience kind of shows at the right time. So obviously in this situation, it's a must for us to win a championship, and we got to be up for that task.
Brandon on the right.
Steph was good. Brandon Scoopy Robinson, Bally Sports. Clay talked about how he watched, or has recently watched, I guess a day or so, YouTube videos to kind of get some motivation going, shooting wise.
Of himself? Is that what he's insinuating?
Yeah.
All the best do that. I like
you make mention that all the best do it. Who outside of yourself do you watch on YouTube shooting?
That's a great question. Go back and watch Ray Allen clips. Obviously Reggie, Seth Curry. Who else I watch? That's the top of the list. Might throw some old Virginia Tech Del Curry highlights in without the 3-point line. But other than that, you're kind of just watching a lot of just film of other games and all that. So it's not so much a YouTube thing. It's more being an NBA fan and just watching Marcus Thompson. Unbelievable. I'm calling you out. It's like when you're in church and like the pastor's giving a sermon and you over there with your phone. You just more so just being an NBA fan and just consuming as much basketball as possible, and you start to get motivated and inspired by all different type of people. About 50-50. He had a lot of great moments in both jerseys.
We'll go to Marcus next.
Yes.
I'd like to begin by repenting for my press conference sins. Two questions for you. One, is there any? I mean, you're basketball historian. Is there any feel or juice from you're about to play a finals game in Boston against the Celtics? Like as an NBA head, what does that feel like? I don't know why this keeps going off. It's my daughter. She needs to stop.
Don't blame it on the kids.
It is. It is. And then see, I don't know. So, and then secondly, why do you think Gary Payton has become such a beloved figure so fast? Like, what is it about him? I don't know why this is happening.
I think I'll start with GP. Like, I think probably a lot of just his name first and foremost in terms of basketball history, and it's so hard to make this league in general, but even harder when what I would feel like the odds of like the NBA's player's son trying to follow in their dad's footsteps. It's a difficult challenging journey, and for him coming out of college and trying to find his way, G League, training camp offers, bouncing around the league all over the place, and then finally finding a home. And last year, him coming in and making an impact. And I think he was on two-way last year. And, like, he was available but not really. And then knowing he could really help us this year, and then it actually proven to be an amazing difference maker. I think fans really resonate with that. They love the way he approaches the game, his energy. He changes games without really having crazy scoring outputs. It's just the stuff that you just get so much energy from watching him defend and disrupt and do all that type of stuff. Fans love that, and we love it too as his teammates. So it's been awesome to watch his growth and development this year. And him coming off that injury, that moment he checked back in the game was an amazing response from the crowd that gave us a lot of juice. And I'm sure more of that to come in this series. What was the other question? Oh, Boston. Yeah, this is special. Like, it's a historic team, the dynasties from the 80s, and how many championships they won over the course of the years. All the different highlights you watch that just have a different iconic look when you see it on TV. Just watching Larry Legend do what he did in his entire career. Even looking at the Boston LA series, KG and Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Rondo getting a championship here. KG's hilarious post game. Anything is possible, whatever. So there's a lot of history in this city and in this building. And, should be an amazing atmosphere, out there on the court tomorrow. And Friday.
Brian on the left.
Steph, have you found as you've gone through your career that the rims and the arenas are all generally the same? I know Jordan said something in the Denver series. I don't know if that was a joke or, but just in general, as you've gone across.
Well, that was because I think he saw one of them was offline or something that nobody else really saw, and then they actually checked it, and it was like, yeah, it was off center by like an inch or so. I see it more as like just the different venues have different, backdrops and lighting and stuff that certain shooters like more than others. It just depends on kind of what your flavor is. So I like Dallas was like it's like a bright arena, and I just like the lighting in there. The backdrop in Madison Square Garden is dope because it's the stage lighting and it's dark. I just there's certain things you see and you prefer different arenas and rims around the league. So that's how I see it more so than the actual rim itself.
I'm here on the left.
Steph, Young, ESPN. I think you can forgive Marcus. Yesterday was his birthday, so he's getting old. So I was wondering, there are not many teams that have two great all-time shooters like you and Clay. When one of you guys might be in a little bit of a slump, do you guys talk to each other? Do you guys give each other tips, or is it an unspoken thing?
Very unspoken thing. I think there's conversations around like maybe play calls or different looks to try to get somebody a good shot, but it's not so much mechanics or building up anybody's confidence because you don't get to that level if your confidence is that shaky where, a couple bad games, you're like, oh, the world's falling. And we both understand that vibe. You don't want to, and honestly, you don't really want to hear anything about it if you're going through it yourself, because at any moment you can spark yourself to get back on track and get out of it. So it's the best thing you could probably say is just keep shooting, because that's the only way you get yourself out of some rough patches. I don't like to use that S word.
Last couple of questions. Monty on the right.
Stephen, you watched Clay the first two games, and he hasn't shot the ball as well as he can. But knowing his history, do you have a certain, peace of mind or whatever, in knowing that what has happened the first two games is gonna stop at some point?
History with him has shown there's no predictor to when he can just take it to another level. Regular season, playoffs, he's always just found a way to get himself going and to, especially in the playoffs, just to make an impact that's loud. Usually it's really loud. And his demeanor never really changes. It's not really something you can just look at and be like, oh, if you saw him right now, you think he's, averaging 50 in this series. Like, he's got just a very confident look about him. And that's the best thing about him. It's all about the work you put in. It's about the mindset. He doesn't need any teaching points on that. And so that's why there's so much confidence that at any moment he can go off.
Last question. Joe here in the middle.
Hey, Steph. I wanted to go off topic here a little bit. As a big golf fan like you are, and somebody who actually occasionally works with the PGA, I'm just wondering if you had any opinion or thoughts on what's going on with the Saudi tournament and guys leaving the PGA, and just if you had any concerns or just thoughts on that issue.
From my vantage point, I'm very fascinated by the reasonings guys are leaving the tour, because there's certain moments where there's an acknowledgement that the tour's done an amazing job supporting players, but there's always room for improvement on ways to increase their the revenue streams, or their ownership of what the tour is doing, or their awareness of what the tour is doing, and all those conversations. It seemed like there was accountability and conversations on both sides. And then, like the last month, you've seen a lot of guys jump ship, obviously with Dustin being the biggest name to go. So and they get up here and they have their interviews and stuff, and I'm sure the money is a big part of it, but I don't know what the other consequences are going to be, the punishments or whatever the fallout is in terms of them leaving the tour. So I'm curious. I don't know enough to comment on that because I'm just really curious about the whys that they're jumping ship. But it is kind of cool to see certain guys speak out about the legacy of the tour, the fact that there is room for improvement, but that they're loyal to the traditions and the history, and understand that they still want to chase trophies and championships that mean something in the history of the game of golf. So I don't think there's anything threatening that, but I'm very curious as to what Live Golf and what the whole kind of agreement is that makes these guys want to jump ship, especially right now. So
Thanks,
I'm
Steph.
sure that'll continue to show itself.